Welcome to 100% Fresh with Two Chef Mission. We are talking about balancing convenience with nutrition today.
Yes, we are. And what do you think that is?
So I would say balancing convenience with nutrition is basically trying to get the best possible meals for your body as far as with nutrients and making sure that you're actually getting everything that you need in a meal. And then convenience being on the quicker side of the scale. So making sure that you can do it quickly and it's something that's just really easily accessible.
Yeah, sort of. It's like the idea of adding in kind of like convenience foods. Because I think we look at convenience food as like, depending on people, right? You could look at them as like not being good for us or a lazier route or all kinds of things, right? We have these different stigmas on it, which, you know, some of them might be true, some not.
Yeah.
But they definitely help to an extent.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we wanted to kind of come in and talk about the idea of balancing them as well as kind of figuring out which are worth it, which maybe not so much.
Right, and I think that's like a really good point to start in where you're saying trying to figure out which are worth it and which aren't, because I feel like that really leads to our first point, which is understanding that convenient foods, not all of them are created equally.
Exactly. So I think that we can definitely say that the idea of maybe a rotisserie chicken, maybe some frozen veggies, things like that, are not going to be created equal to the same of pizza rolls.
Or getting, or like just getting a box of a pre-made dinner where you just add water.
Yes.
I'm not wanting to put any like specific names out there, so that's why I'm saying it like that.
No. But so it's definitely kind of using the idea of looking at what the convenience food is,
right,
and thinking, okay, is this going to be more helpful to me or maybe not? And kind of choosing wisely within your convenience foods.
Yeah, and I mean, it really does make sense to do that when you're looking at wanting to make sure that you're getting the best, food for your body. And I think that really kind of leads into our next point, which is
kind of learning more about how to read labels.
Right.
Or even like what to look for, those kinds of things. And the reasoning for that is, I would say that a big factor within a lot of convenience foods, whether it's like prepackaged items and stuff like that, could be, it's going to mainly be like what your sodium and sugar levels.
Yes. Oh my God, yeah.
Because depending on certain things, they have a very high amount of that, because preservatives, like salt is...
It's a natural preservative.
And then within reason, what we try to do is we look for items that aren't going to have a crap ton of ingredients that you're like, what is this?
Yeah, it's because if you're looking at like a label and you're seeing basically like 50 ingredients and you don't understand half of them, it's probably not the best thing for you.
Right. So I saw, and it's funny because I saw a video, and it was one of those like dump recipes of like putting stuff in, and they're like, oh, it's only, I think they said like 5 or 3 ingredients or something like that. But the thing is it's actually not, because it's like a package of all these different seasonings as well as all of the additives and preservatives and stuff like that, as well as then you have a bunch of like a few different canned products, and like it was just all very processed.
Yeah.
And the thing is that while it might look like, oh, it's only 3 ingredients, it's actually not. It's 3 items that actually have a lot more in them than what could be seen if you're not thinking about looking at the labels.
Right, and I think that's a really good example of showing, like, and it's something I believe we spoke about earlier on another podcast, how on certain social media videos that they just like say, oh, look at this super easy thing that we did, and you're just like, yeah, but you're missing a whole point of...
I mean, were you talking about the difference with like home cooks versus professionals?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. We did do a podcast on that.
Yeah, and so it's just like...
we're just like, where are we going with this?
But it's a really good thing to see that, like, okay, you might be saying it's 3 ingredients, but it's actually not. It's 3 items that you're using to make the meal, but there's a plethora of ingredients in that.
Yeah, and there's definitely ways to have simpler recipes that have fewer ingredients that still taste as great, that aren't items that have so many things within it.
Right.
And that's what we really try to focus on. And that would lead us to our next tip, which is to, when you're looking for convenience items, think about whole ingredients.
Right.
And by that we're meaning things like if it's pre-cut, right? So there's, in the produce section and fruit section and things like that, which is produce section, they have different fruits and vegetables that you can get that are pre-done. Yeah. And while there is something to say that starts losing nutritional value as it's cut and things like that, but the point is that if you're getting vegetables into your diet, that's a great thing in its own right. So even if it's pre-done, you're still going to get value from it. If you are very limited on time, having those pre-cut fruits and vegetables can, if that's your way of getting them in your diet, we are all for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because for us, as we've grown our skills in culinary as chefs and things like that, prepping is nothing for us.
No, yeah, second nature.
So for us, we don't need that, but that's also because we've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
So for most people, as they're starting to add things in, that's just an easy way to do it without taking the time.
Right, and it's really nice to be able to have, like you were saying, you can find it in the produce in any of the grocery stores that you may be at. If you're, here in the States, or if you happen to be international, you can find these pre-cut convenient items to be able to grab and quickly throw into your meals. So that way it helps save you time on the prep.
Yeah, but basically, sorry.
No, I was going to say that, and that kind of leads to...
well, I was just going to say, like, it's just kind of that looking at the convenience of, if it's available, focusing more on your whole ingredients versus something that could be very highly processed.
Right,
which does lead into our
next one, which would be your frozen fruits and vegetables. Now, there will be people out there who will speak against it, and I don't know why, because a lot of the times they are painted as flash frozen.
Truthfully, people can pick apart everything.
Oh yeah,
they can pick apart everything. Exactly, and that's the thing is, they can find something and everything to pick apart and bully about, right?
Yeah.
Which is not what this is about. And so with the frozen fruits and vegetables, a lot of the times the great thing about them is that they're picked at the height of the season and then flash frozen so that they're ready to go to steam or cook or do whatever you want with them. There are certain items that we are fans of frozen, certain items we're not fans of frozen.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's a very convenient way. And we use frozen vegetables in our own home.
Yeah.
Because if we have a super busy
week
day or anything, having something that you can pull out, steam, and have ready in minutes is super
it's
great.
So helpful. So helpful, especially when it starts getting around that dinner time and you're now starting to rush to try to get it put together, and now you're like, oh my god, like I don't know what to do. Just grab a bag of frozen vegetables, throw it in the microwave real quick, steam it, and you got it in a couple minutes.
Unless you're anti-microwave.
And then
use a steamer.
Use a steamer, or even throw it in the saute pan. Even in a couple minutes, it'll be done and ready to go.
Yeah, but the point is that don't be afraid of convenience items in the sense of like, oh, I have to get rid of all of them, because even as professionals, we use convenience items, as well as in kitchens, they use convenience items.
All the time. All the time.
Like, are they the best ones? Not necessarily. Like, no one is, I would say, most restaurants that you're getting chicken nuggets at, they didn't make those. No. They just threw them in a fryer. Yeah, they're from a bag. But that's the point, is restaurants use convenience items.
Yeah, and it's just to be able to help save time and to be able to help with making sure that they're still able to put out a consistent product for their guests.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to.
And frozen fruits and vegetables and things like that aspect are they're whole ingredients.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at your bag of frozen vegetables, it's just going to be the vegetable, unless you're specifically grabbing the bag that is seasoned, which we don't usually do. If that helps you, then by all means. Yeah. But if you're looking at the labels, they're going to be the vegetables or the fruits that are meant to be in it.
Exactly.
And that's the great thing about it. The next thing that we would go to after fruits and vegetables is canned items.
Yeah. Now, there are definitely some canned items that we would say are staples that we will have in the house and will use, again, for convenience sake. And then there's just a lot of them that we don't tend to go towards just because we see them, and again, it goes down to looking at the label and seeing some of the stuff they're putting in there, and it's not something that we align ourselves with and say that we want.
Well, I also say it's a preference.
Yeah.
So it depends on whether you're going to be about it flavor-wise and stuff. Tomato products are a huge staple for us.
Oh, yeah. Like tomato paste, fresh tomatoes, like a good mix of canned tomato products we usually have in the house because they will ultimately end up being a great base for soup or making sauces if you're going to make something like a pizza or something. And
it's funny because we've also, one thing I will say for anyone who's, canned products, it has a canned taste and things like that. While that could be true to an extent.
Yeah.
It's a convenience thing that's going to help. If you're cooking it and adding flavor to it, it's not going to taste like canned.
Yeah, that canned flavor that some people will taste will be cooked right out of it.
Yeah.
And another one that I would say that we have as far as canned items would be like beans.
Yes. Now, we're not always going to have time to cold soak, hot soak beans.
Yeah.
Or have the time to cook them for hours.
Yeah.
Which is fine because they have canned beans, which is a very helpful product.
Oh yeah.
When it's necessary. And as us with children, it's helpful. So utilizing canned items like that is a great way.
Yeah.
To balance convenience items with your meals. And that leads us to our additional bonus tip that I think we've had all through this is that it's all about balance.
Yeah.
It's not about I have to take out all of this out of my diet or things like that, or I need to get rid of all of one thing. Balance it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about having a good amount of all of it.
Yeah, and it's also understanding not having so much of one that it supersedes the other. And it's just really like as you grow in your kitchen, as you're cooking more, you will ultimately find what is balance for you within those items.
Well, and as you're growing, right, you might start out with having a lot more convenience and minimal homemade as you're getting there, right? But as you're growing it, you're going to start finding that homemade starts getting a bigger portion, whereas convenience kind of comes over here, only because you're growing your skills and it becomes easier.
Exactly.
So we have to start somewhere, right? So it's just working on finding ways to not overwhelm your jumping into the whole homemade convenience things. So just start adding in convenient items that might be a little bit better in the sense of them not being created equal, where maybe more whole ingredients. So it's like, okay, well, I need the convenience, but how could I do that with fruits and vegetables and things like that?
Right.
And I will say that, like, if you are interested in a list of convenient items that we will go to, we can start listing them now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, frozen fruits and veggies.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are always great to have.
Mm-hmm. Something that's pre-done rotisserie chicken.
Those are always just a nice, easy meal.
Mm-hmm.
If you're grabbing it for lunch, or even if you're doing it for dinner, you have lunches the next day
Mm-hmm.
because you can take it apart and then end up making sandwiches with it or something else.
Sometimes salad kits.
Salad kits can be amazing resources because they're already cleaned, they're already ready to go, and all you have to do is dump them in the salad bowl, and then either you can use the dressing that is provided or use your own dressing.
Canned tomato products, which we already talked about,
Yep.
as well as canned beans,
Yep.
which we already talked about.
Exactly.
Yellow rice.
Yellow rice is just fantastic. It's probably one of our favorite rices as far as go-to convenient items, because sometimes we just don't want to have to do all the full process of seasoning it to get it to that yellow state.
Mm-hmm.
And we just love it. We love the flavor, and just all of it is just really, really well done.
You don't need to add anything to it.
No, not at all. It's ready to go.
And those are some of our major go-tos.
Yeah.
I think I had another one in my brain, and then it was like, you don't need to remember.
I was like, I've got one, but
You got one.
it's occasionally we get this, and it's only because the kids will ask for it. Sometimes we'll get frozen meatballs.
Oh yes,
And
but that's
a convenient thing because
child.
the kids are specifically wanting it, and they will randomly ask us, "I want frozen meatballs today," or "I want meatballs today." And instead of having to go through the whole process of getting the ground beef seasoned and flavored and rolled into balls and then baked and cooked and everything, it just can be so much easier to just grab a bag of frozen.
Yeah, and I will say the other thing for them, this is also preferential to our children because they are not big on potatoes.
No, it's
other than like tater tots and some French fries.
Yeah.
So we will have those in our freezer that are unseasoned, and then we season them.
Yeah.
And we toss them in the oven. So we even as chefs, we use convenience foods.
Yeah.
We just try to focus.
Inevitable, really.
We just try to focus them more on whole ingredients.
Right.
Less in them.
Exactly.
And that they're still going to taste great because we can add to them.
Right. And that's the thing. That's one of the great things with even getting convenience foods. You can always add to it. Because you can add your seasonings to it. You can flavor it the way you want it to. And then it becomes your own.
Yep. So we hope that some of these tips were helpful for you with growing into balancing convenience with your nutrition. And we will see you guys in the next episode.
And until then, keep it 100% fresh.